Welcome to all our viewers in India and around the world. You're watching Defense Dynamics and I'm Danveer Singh coming to you from New Delhi. On Defense Dynamics today, we will talk about eyes in space, India's Digantra, the missile tracking war. So what is Digantra? We'll explain. As India keeps its focus on Indo-Pacific, why India's strategic Nicobar airport so vital? Next on the show, we'll tell you the new phase of infantry warfare, Ashni platoons, and why Army is accelerating procurement of suicide drones. And at the end, in my take, I will tell you about the industrialized warfare, as in the Russia's China-enabled drone network and what it means for India. But first, the global defense headlines. The Defense Research and Development Organization or DRDO has successfully completed user evaluation trials of the next generation Akash NG missile system. The trials validate the missile's performance across diverse operational scenarios with successful interception of aerial targets at varying ranges and altitude, including low-level, near-boundary threats and long-range, high-altitude targets. The Indian Army has launched a major plan to acquire 1 lakh indigenous 9mm pistols for close quarter combat. The Defense Ministry has issued an RFI or the request for information to domestic manufacturers as part of a wider infantry modernization push. The new pistols, equipped with night sights, accessory rails and all-weather capability, will replace outdated Ishapur models across units. Lockheed Martin has partnered with US manufacturer Hypersonic to fast-track missile production through an embedded factory-as-a-service model. Hypersonic will deploy CNS-based robotic manufacturing cells at Lockheed's facilities to speed up high-precision components manufacturing. The collaboration aims to cut lead time and reduce costs for systems like PAC-3, MSE, THAAD, PRSM, and GMLRS. The USS Santa Barbara has launched a Lucas one-way attack drone in the Gulf, marking United States Navy's first shipborne operational use of the system. The drone belongs to CENTCOM's newly developed one-way attack drone squadron Task Force Scorpion Strike. The milestone brings low-cost unmanned strike capability to forward maritime operations. Northrop Grumman has conducted a successful static test of its prototype Mark 72 solid rocket motor in Maryland. The motor is designed to meet performance requirements while improving manufacturing speed, efficiency, and supply chain resilience. The test validated digital twin modeling and supports future standard missile production for the US Navy and global users. In modern warfare, the first battle is not fought on land, it is fought in space. Missile defense depends on who detects first, who tracks best, and who decides fastest. Today on Defense Dynamics, we explain why missile tracking matters, how the United States and China do it, and how India is building sovereign capability with the help from indigenous startup Digantra. Why missile tracking is critical? Missile tracking is a race against time, certainty and escalation. From the moment a missile is launched, national command authorities may have minutes, sometimes seconds, to decide whether the launch is a test, a conventional strike, or a nuclear attack. Early detection allows defenders to identify the launch point, predict the trajectory, and assess the intended target. This enables missile interception, leadership protection, civil defense activation, and crucially, prevent false alarms that could trigger nuclear war. In an era of hypersonic weapons, multiple warheads and saturation attacks, missile defense begins not at interception but at detection in space.
The United States operates the world's most advanced missile tracking architecture. Its space-based infrared satellites detect the heat plume of a missile launch within seconds. That data is fused with ground radars and naval sensors, feeding layered missile defense systems across land and sea. The American edge lies in redundancy, global coverage, and real-time data fusion. China entered missile early warning later, but is catching up fast. Beijing is deploying missile warning satellites integrated with long-range radars focused on regional tracking across Asia and the Pacific. The objective is not global dominance, but faster reaction time, second strike credibility, and strategic certainty. India's challenge is unique. Two nuclear-armed neighbours, diverse missile types, and complex launch geographies. India's missile tracking ecosystem combines ground radars, space assets, and increasingly private innovation. This is where Digantra plays a critical role. Digantra specializes in space situational awareness, tracking satellites, debris, and anomalous objects in Earth's orbit. This matters because missile tracking depends on satellites that must survive, reposition, and remain trusted during conflict.
Digantra has raised $50 million in a Series B round to expand into the military space segment, marking the largest funding deal in India's space sector this year. The space tech firm aims to strengthen indigenous space surveillance by scaling its Scout satellite constellation, launching 15 more surveillance satellites, along with 2 Albatross platforms dedicated to early missile warning and precision tracking by 2026 to 27. Backed by its Skygate ground sensor network and Ahira integrated space and ground system, Digantra will enable near real-time threat detection, protecting critical satellites and reinforcing missile defense and strategic deterrence.
If an adversary blinds or threatens satellites, missile warning collapses. By providing precise orbital awareness and predictive analytics, Digantra helps safeguard the space layer that missile defense depends on. Strategically, this strengthens sovereignty, resilience, and decision confidence, the pillars of credible deterrence.
The next war may not begin with explosions, but with a signal detected in space. As missiles grow faster and space becomes contested, India's push for indigenous space intelligence is no longer an option. It is strategic necessity, and that's the dynamics of defense. India has begun work on major strategic project, a new airport in the Nicobar Islands. This is not just infrastructure, it is geopolitical statement aimed at strengthening India's maritime defense and securing the Indo-Pacific. On defense dynamics, we explain why Nicobar matters and how India plans to project power from here.
Geography has always shaped power, and few locations are as consequential as the Nicobar Island chain. Nicobar sits at the eastern edge of Indian Ocean, just over 150 kilometers from Malacca Strait, one of the world's most critical maritime choke points. Nearly a third of global trade and a majority of East Asia's energy supplies pass through this narrow corridor every year. For India, this geography translates into strategic viability. From Nicobar, Indian forces can monitor commercial shipping, naval movements, and submarine traffic entering or exiting the Indian Ocean from the Pacific. This is not surveillance in theory, it is persistent, real-time oversight of global sea lanes. In military terms, Nicobar functions as a forward, unsinkable aircraft carrier. Unlike mobile naval platforms, it cannot be pushed back or denied without escalation. It anchors India's presence deep into the Indo-Pacific, offering leverage not through aggression but through location and awareness. The new airport at Great Nicobar fundamentally alters India's operational calculus in the eastern Indian Ocean. A long, reinforced runway allows the operation of maritime patrol aircraft, fighter jets, long-endurance drones, and heavy transport aircrafts and platforms that demand both length and infrastructure. This dramatically expands India's ability to conduct continuous surveillance, rapid force deployment, and sustained operations far from the mainland. The airport also shortens India's response time. Assets that earlier had to operate from mainland bases or Sri Vijayapuram can now launch closer to area of interest, increasing non-station time, reducing fuel constraint, and enabling quicker decision cycles. Beyond conflict scenarios, the facility strengthens India's capacity for humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, and evacuation operations across South Asia. In strategic planning, logistics is power, and Nicobar provides that power at the edge of the Indo-Pacific. Nicobar is not being developed in isolation. It's part of an integrated military ecosystem anchored by India's only tri-services command, the Andaman and Nicobar Command. The new airport enables seamless integration of air power with naval and ground forces. Maritime patrol aircraft operating from Nicobar can track surface ships and submarines across vast ocean spaces, while fighters provide air cover and deterrence. Combined with coastal radar chains, undersea sensor networks, and space-based surveillance, Nicobar becomes a forward hub for sea control, sea denial, and strategic signaling. This layered approach ensures that India does not merely observe activity in the region, it can respond swiftly and credibly if required. In strategic terms, Nicobar compresses time and distance. It allows India to see earlier, decide faster, and act decisively, reinforcing stability by making miscalculations less likely.
This airport is not about militarization, it's about stability through strength. As the Indo-Pacific becomes the world's primary strategic theatre, India's forward presence in Nicobar signals one thing very clearly: the Indian Ocean will remain free, secure, and balanced. After Operation Sindoor, the Indian Army is accelerating procurement of suicide drones, also known as loitering munitions. But this is not just about buying new weapons. It marks the rise of a new battlefield concept, Ashni platoons. Today we explain what Ashni platoons are, why the army is investing heavily in suicide drones, and how this changes infantry warfare.
Modern battlefields punish exposure. Infantry units today face constant surveillance from enemy drones, precision artillery guided by sensors, and fortified positions designed to absorb direct assault. Traditional tactics of closing distance with fire and movement now carry a far higher casualty rate. Suicide drones fundamentally change this balance. Loitering munition allows infantry commanders to observe the battlefield from above, identify enemy positions in real time, and strike with precision without exposing soldiers to direct fire. These systems compress the entire kill chain. What once required coordination between infantry, artillery, and higher headquarters can now be executed by a platoon within seconds. Targets such as bunkers, sniper nests, vehicle columns, and command posts can be neutralized before contact is made. Lessons from recent operations, including Operation Sindoor, reinforced a simple truth for the Indian Army. Future infantry combat will be decided by who sees first and strikes first, and not by who advances in greater numbers. What are Ashni platoons? Ashni platoons represent a structural and a doctrinal shift in how Indian Army fights at the lowest tactical level. Traditionally, platoons relied on small arms and light support weapons, with precision, firepower coming from higher formations. Ashni platoons break that model by embedding organic drone strike capability directly into an infantry unit. Each Ashni platoon is designed to operate with a combination of man-portable suicide drones, reconnaissance UAVs, trained operators, and digital targeting systems. This gives platoon commanders their own aerial eyes and precision strike options independent of artillery or the air support. In effect, these platoons become self-contained combat systems. They can reconnoiter terrain, fix enemy positions, conduct precision strikes, and assess damage all within their own command loop. This is particularly decisive in mountains, dense urban areas, jungles, and contested borders, where traditional fire support may be delayed or restricted. Ashni platoons give infantry units the ability to fight smarter, faster, and with far fewer casualties.
Ashni platoons reflect a hard battlefield lesson. Speed and precision now matter more than mass. By pushing suicide drones down to the platoon level, the army is ensuring that even small units can detect threats, strike first, and dominate the tactical fight without exposing soldiers to direct fire.
How this changes India's combat doctrine. The introduction of Ashni platoons signals a broader transformation in India's land warfare doctrine. The Indian Army is moving away from manpower-heavy, linear assaults towards network, sensor-driven operations, where information dominance and precision fires define success. Suicide drones now operate as an extension of the infantry, complementing artillery, attack helicopters, electronic warfare units, and surveillance assets. At the tactical level, this raises the cost of aggression for the adversary. Even small Indian units can impose persistent pressure, disrupt movement, and deny sanctuary. There is no safe depth, no unseen approach. At the strategic level, Ashni platoons enhance deterrence. An opponent must now assume that every patrol, every platoon, and every forward position carries instantaneous precision strike capability. In future conflicts, infantry will not just hold the ground, they will dominate the battle space from above.
Ashni platoons are not futuristic concepts. They are battlefield realities being built now. As warfare becomes faster, deadlier, and more precise, the Indian Army is ensuring that its infantry is not just present, but dominant. What we are witnessing today is not just battlefield adaptation. It is industrialized warfare at scale. Russia's drone resurgence is not happening in isolation. It is being quietly enabled by China's vast civilian military technology ecosystem. Electronics, navigation modules, optics, engines, batteries, and manufacturing capacity flowing through commercial supply chains. None of this is labeled as military aid, yet together it has transformed Russia's ability to sustain high-tempo, cost-effective warfare. This is the new model of war: cheap, expendable, endlessly replaceable systems that overwhelm the existing platforms. A drone costing a few $1,000s can tie down air defenses, destroy armor, strike logistics, and exhaust an opponent at the fraction of the cost. Quantity is no longer inferior to quality. It is becoming a quality of its own. China's role gives Russia something even more valuable than hardware: strategic insulation. Sanctions lose bite when components are of dual use. Attrition loses meaning when production is scalable. Losses stop being failures and become a strategy. So what does this mean for India? First, it sharpens India's two-front challenge. The same Chinese ecosystem enabling the Russians can just as easily support Pakistan or be turned inwards for PLA operations against India. The drone threat India faces will not be limited. It will be mass-produced, persistent, and layered. Second, it forces a rethink of deterrence. Traditional advantages in armor, artillery, even manned air power can be diluted by swarm of low-cost autonomous systems. India must assume future conflicts will begin not with missiles, but with thousands of drones probing, blinding and saturating defenses. Third, it validates India's recent doctrinal shift. Indigenous loitering munitions, counter-drone systems, Ashni platoon and private sector defense startups are not optional modernization projects, but they are the survival tools. India must build volume, resilience and domestic supply chains, not just showcase the platforms. So finally, it underlines a strategic truth. Industrial capacity is now combat power. Nations that can rapidly convert civilian manufacturing into military output will dominate future wars. For India, that means integrating its commercial tech ecosystem, startups, MSMEs and private industry directly into defense planning. The Russia-China drone equation is not a distant European story. It's a preview of the wars India must be ready to fight: fast, unmanned, attritional and industrial. That's all for this week on Defense Dynamics. Share your comments on social media with #DD See you next week with new defense and geopolitical developments and their analysis. Until then, goodbye and take care.